Welcome to the subject software engineering. At present, we are in chapter number 11, that is modeling component level design. In this chapter, we have introduced ourselves to the chapter in session 59, and in session 60, we have tried to understand what is a component. In today's session, that is session number 61, we will be taking next topic, that is designing class-based components. Okay, students, we are in the design part of the software engineering. So today's topic is designing class-based components. Point number 1, object-oriented component level design is class-based. A number of important principles and concepts guide the designer as classes are elaborated. Students, object-oriented component level design is always class-based. That is, when you go in for component level building, you take up class as a unit. A number of important principles and concepts guide the designer as we go in details of the classes. Point number 2, principles such as open-close principles and dependency inversion principle, and concepts such as coupling and cohesion guide the software engineer in building testable, implementable and maintainable software components. Students, we have studied what is cohesion, what is coupling in the previous chapters. In this chapter also, we will be considering what is coupling and cohesion. Okay. Point number 3. To conduct component level design in this context, classes are elaborated by specifying messaging details, identifying appropriate interfaces, elaborating attributes and defining data structures. To implement them, describing processing flow within each operation and representative behavior at class and component level. Students, will go to the next point, that is 4th. In every case, design iteration, that is refactoring, is an essential activity. Students, we know refactoring is very essential as it improves the software design. We'll continue further. Component level design draws on information developed as a part of analysis model and represented as part of architectural model. Students, we have studied analysis model, also we have studied architectural model. So component level design gets lot of inputs or information, from the analysis model as well as architectural model, because those form the basis for the component level design. Point number 6. When an object-oriented software engineering approach is chosen, component level design focuses on the elaboration of analysis classes, that is problem domain specific classes, and definition and refinement of infrastructure classes. Point number 7. The detailed description of the attributes, operations and interfaces used by these classes is the design detail required as precursor to the construction activity. So detailed description such as attributes, operation, interfaces, as used by the classes, so that design details and construction activity will go smooth. Now we'll take up a small subtopic called as component level design guidelines. Students, the guidelines that apply to components, their interfaces, and the dependencies and inheritance characteristics and have impact on the resultant design. Students, whatever guidelines that we follow for the components and their interfaces and dependencies and inheritance characteristics have a lot of impact on design, because all these concepts are related to your object oriented designing of the classes as well as softwares. So let us take one by one. First, component, followed by interfaces, okay, and then third point, dependencies and inheritance. First we'll take up component. Naming convention should be for the component should be established, okay, such that are specified as part of architectural model and then refined and elaborated as part of component model. Students who have studied even the naming conventions in the architectural design, so the naming convention should be very straightforward so that the meaning is clear. Okay, so here also the naming conventions should be established for the components that are specified as a part of architectural model and then refined and elaborated as part of component level model. Point number 2, architectural component names should be drawn from the problem domain and should have meaning to all stakeholders who view the architectural model. Students, there are number of participants or number of people who are interested in software that is being built. So the names of the components should be related to the problem domain, or it should refer to the problem area that for which the software is developed, as well as it should have meaning to all the people who are going to be associated with the software. So it should form common platform, or the name should be meaningful and understandable to all the participants. For example, in case of the construction of a building, the class name floor plan is meaningful to everyone reading it, regardless of the technical background. Students, when you name anything as floor plan, the meaning is very, very clear. It is a plan for floor. So this is the case in building, okay, or constructing a building, and so also such terms can also be adopted as far as software engineering is concerned, so that all the people who are participating in the development of the software understand it in totality. Next, we'll take up interfaces. Point number 1. Interfaces provide important information about communication and collaboration. Point number 2. However, unfettered representation of interfaces tend to complicate component diagrams. Students, interface are very much required, because if one has to, okay, benefit from the software components, there should be interfaces so that information flow is smooth. So these interfaces provide important information about the communication and the collaboration, but they should not be more in number, otherwise it will lead to the complications of the software design. Point number 3. For consistency, interfaces should flow from the left hand side of the component box. Students, for simplicity, most of the interfaces should be represented on the left side of the component box, so they are more meaningful. Point number 4. Only those interfaces that are relevant to the component under construction should be shown, even if other interfaces are available. Students, for more clarity, only required, okay, design elements should form, okay, the part of the design. So only those interfaces that are relevant to the particular components should be shown, and even if there are others, okay, they should be hidden so that concentration is laid on meaningful interfaces. Third, dependencies and inheritance. So this is the third important aspects, that is dependencies and inheritance. Point number 1. For improved readability, it is good idea to model dependencies from left to right and inheritances from bottom, that is derived class, to the top, that is the base class. Okay, students, when you want to bring readability and understandability, you should see that the model dependencies should be from left to right and inheritance should be from bottom to top. At bottom you should have derived class and at top you should have base class. This is what you have studied in object oriented programming when you have studied C++. Point number 2. In addition, component level interdependencies should be represented via interfaces rather than by representation of the component to component dependency. Okay, students, today we have taken a new topic that is called as designing class-based components. Students who are going deep into the subject, so you should study regularly and you should write in your notebook all these details. If you got anything, you can give me a call. Thank you.